Good morning, everyone. My name is Farah, and as the KZN Provincial Chairperson, I'd like to welcome you all to another session in our HR series, Being Human in Human Resource Management, where we focus on HR management and the role of the HR practitioner. Today, we have back with us Professor Sean Raghunan from UKZN's College of Law and Management Studies. And through these sessions, he's helped us to better understand exactly what the role of the HR manager is. And today, we're going to chat about crafting a career in HR through graduate experiences and voices. And we have with us a current master's student at UKZN, who is also a talent acquisition intern at Deloitte Consulting, Ms. Zamangwane Luhlongwane. Welcome to both of you. Zama, we appreciate you being with us today and sharing and giving us some of your time just to share some of your experiences along your graduate journey. Prof, thank you so much. You're part of the family now, and we so appreciate the support that you constantly give us at BMF KZN. Before I hand over to Zama, just a few things. We are live on Facebook, so if you have any colleagues who find it easier to hop on to join us through Facebook, please do let them know. Comments, questions, you've got the chat, or you can just raise your hand and unmute when we get to the question section and ask your question. I do hope you enjoy the session with us. Zama, I'm going to hand over to you now.
So good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak by the Black Management Forum and my Professor Sean Raghunan. It's a beautiful experience to know that there are people in the industry and academia that are interested in our experiences as graduates and young professionals in the human resources space. I believe that it is within these discussions that the negative conceptions and hindrances are broken for young professionals in the HR space, because as the famous Zulu saying goes, indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili, meaning ask the way from those who have walked through it. So my name is Zamangwane Luhlongwane. I'm a passionate and motivated 25-year-old from a small town in KZN called Ladysmith. My journey with HR started in matric after my career psychometric assessments suggested that I'm most likely to excel in a people-orientated role. From the many careers that were suggested, I was more interested in HR because with the brief introduction, I was able to discover that it has actually got many areas. It's not just a one-stream career, and not just the career that is mostly known for firing employees in the workplace. It was very difficult to convince my family about pursuing it because of the very bad stigma of HR. It is known as an area for old people, not exciting, and for the last option for many university students. My undergraduate degree was in industrial psychology and labor studies, which are studies that are very much human related in the corporate setting, which is what I loved. For my honors, I did a Bachelor of Commerce honors in Industrial Relations and Human Resource Management, and currently doing my master's in Industrial Relations. I was then very fortunate to be given an opportunity by Deloitte to be a talent acquisition intern and shortly promoted to being a talent acquisition junior consultant. So the main purpose of this presentation is to share my graduate experiences in the HR space, covering these experiences, these topics. Okay, so it will be my university experience, the need to restructure the HR curriculum, the experience to limitations in the field, early work life in HR, the need of HR mentors, and what can be done differently. Then I shall conclude. So my university experience. Coming out of high school and into university is a very exciting experience. It is exciting because you get to study the course of your choice in depth. As I was just preparing for this presentation, I had to think back on the course content and overall experience, and reflect if my engagement with the content in varsity was actually what I expected, and if it helped me transitioning into the corporate environment. My undergrad was in social sciences and very much theoretical, or rather, there was too much of an emphasis within the theoretical part of it. The content given definitely channeled our way of thinking or conceptualizing the work environment using very outdated theories by old scholars to define a modern workplace. I understand the reasoning behind because most theories are relevant in the current workplace, especially the motivation theory by Abraham Maslow of the hierarchy of needs. With my current role, I've noticed that retention of talent is actually a very big challenge for many companies. So there are times whereby HR practitioners do have to go back to the basics of the theories, but not as much as the universities emphasize it. There needs to be a better way of re-looking at our challenges than referring to the outdated theories. So because I wanted, I knew perspective, because my undergrad was in social sciences, I wanted to join a commerce module just to get more exposure on the feel of an environment without the theoretical parts. So for my honors, I did a Bachelor of Commerce in Human Resource Management and Industrial Relations. So there I found the course to be very much engaging and interesting and relevant, because my engagement with the social sciences for my undergrad, I found that the social science degree is very much out of reach with realities of with the corporate. I say that now, even when I'm inside corporate, that it proved my suspicions when I was doing my final year, that actually it's not exactly what's happening in the economy. So yes, I was happy with the qualitative side of the human resource management, as it provided relevant modules such as dispute resolutions, employment law, recruitment and selection. However, the quantitative side, which is the skills like the HR software skills that are needed, like Workday, SAP for HR, they were lacking the time that I was in varsity, which is very much which is very much needed now, because that is where HR is going. It's going digital, and most of the stuff are going through Workday and the processes, and it's a very huge disadvantage for graduates that they're not getting that experience. The need to restructure the HR curriculum. So from a student perspective, there are many questions regarding the formalization of curriculums. For example, how frequent are the curriculums re-looked at? Do universities connect with different external institutions when forming these curriculums? And more importantly, do universities holistically take to account that there are 3 different types of student inspirations in a classroom? There is a student that is inspiring to be in academia. There is a student inspiring to be in corporate, and there is a student inspiring to be entrepreneurial, opening their own HR businesses, for example. The current curriculum, unfortunately, does not speak too loudly to the inspiring corporate and entrepreneurial students. At times, it feels like universities are more favorable to inspiring academics than it is to corporate people and to those who are inspiring to be in corporate and entrepreneurial. And there has been it has been long known that corporate is complaining about the knowledge and skills mismatch that universities are giving them. And it's a concern that there has, or not to my knowledge, that universities try to lessen the gap of what is required by corporate and what is happening. So now corporate are taking matters into their own hands. For example, my company now has a Deloitte University. So the Deloitte University is covering pressing topics that are more relatable to its business needs. So the silence of the universities in lessening the gap will result into university students being unfortunately unemployable. For most of the HR curriculum, the content we engage with is from an employee perspective or or it's training us to be employees, which may not be fruitful for our very high unemployment graduate numbers that require inspiration and enough knowledge to successfully build something of your own. Universities need to relook at the current role in our economy and not to be institutions that are viewed as to be out of touch or out of reach of the realities. So these are my experienced limitations in the field. So there is limited opportunities to penetrate the markets. There are a number of reasons for this. Our economy is not doing well, so it is expected that no one will be employed immediately. For example, I got employed after a whole year of searching for a graduate program. And another thing that you can say is that maybe it's because we are not really value add fresh from varsity because of the lack of real exposure that the current HR needs now. So it's debatable on because we can all agree that the HR graduate space has got large numbers of graduates. We have HR in social sciences, and we also have other institutions offering HR in commerce institutions. So in the whole of the country, we have a lot of HR graduates that have unfortunately not been able to join the industry, as I know many from also those that I was studying with ended up branching into education, doing the PGCE that allows you to study for business, that allows you to teach business studies. So if we could revamp HR and make it exciting and also make it appealing for businesses, maybe there will be more space for HR, or businesses would be more excited to actually opening up space for HR graduates. And the lack of career fairs. In varsity, there were these exciting career fairs for accounting students, for finance students, and it really just created the momentum while they were still in varsity about their careers. But with HR, you just see what happens when you're in the field. We don't have HR departments coming to universities for final year students, telling them about HR, because it's very broad. Even as I just started with my role in Deloitte last year, it has made me be exposed to the many options that HR has. And the relevancy of the modules offered in university. The curriculum that that university exposes us to is relevant. I will definitely not disregard it, especially the commerce side of it, which was my honors. I will not disregard it because it taught me the basics, but it definitely did not it did not train me or teach me to be a value add from the beginning. Hence, we have a very big department for learning and development, because it's a big need that even with graduates, we still need to be taken through a whole process whereby we've been taught and everything. And that just comes to testify that we're not really properly trained to hit the ground running straight after varsity. Because but it also makes sense from a point that every corporate or every company has ways or functions differently. So the learning and development parts would be a case-to-case or business by business, but they're also like the common HR practices. For example, that businesses are moving digitally. So what would you do with graduates that are not aware of these new systems that are being done? So we are we are outdated a bit. So and from, as I said, that I'm in talent acquisition, which is mainly within the recruitment. So we think of it as like you have to recruit someone and they only will be able to give back to the to the company in many months, like 3 months or whatnot, because you're still properly training them, which leads to another question: that is our qualifications properly training us for this? And my previous question: how often should curriculums change? Because the work environment is no longer the same as it was 10 years ago. So do we still learn what people learned 10 years ago, or do we consistently change the curriculum to respond? And most importantly, for those who want to be in corporate or in entrepreneurial, that it responds to them. So my early work life in HR. And so as we're just engaging with my professor, he asked that what are the shocks that I received when I joined the corporate. I think the biggest one is the pace. Like, I was able to transition quite comfortably into corporate, but there were a few shockers. The first one is the world of work is very fast, and the turnaround time is much quicker than what we are trained or required in universities. In university, sometimes like the projects will be required to complete them in a month or so. And like our professors will be very lenient as 2 months, but then like with the final students, it's actually very vital that they taught because in corporate, you are required to have a turnaround of like a week, sorry, or few days even. So that's also like a wide awakening of things are fast, and the fast pace. We have really like lenient lecturers and whatnot. So from a point of preparing students, we should also be mindful of the times, the time slot that we give them into. And the level of depth. For example, in varsity, we were required to do presentations. We'd be given a topic, and we were required to present to our professor and the rest of the class. We would be given very high marks for not really in-depth discussions during the presentations. And what I noticed that what I noticed in corporate, especially even with my leaders, with the directors, they're very much in depth. Very much in depth. And I had the privilege to assist with graduate recruitment earlier in the year. And we put them through case studies, and you could see that they're not really in depth. Maybe also for the professors and the academic people in the core, that maybe for also emphasizing the final years, that just to make the thinking of these presentations to be more critical and more in depth. And that will definitely prepare them for varsity. So yes, I also had here on the slide, it's always been a question if our qualifications are contributing to our work performance, or someone that only has a matric can easily be trained. So with our university degrees, it's important that there's a need for them, and that we can differentiate a person that from matric, they went through a learnership of HR, then a person who has maybe an honors or a master's or degree in HR. There has to be a difference in the way that we tackle issues and everything. And as I had said prior, the social sciences area of human resources being the one that needs the biggest revamp, because it's very much theoretical and out of touch on what is happening. And unfortunately, a lot of graduates going through the social sciences side of HR and being immediately disadvantaged. Okay, number 3, the need of HR senior mentors. I would incorporate with this with the mentors starting as early as from varsity, for example, because other areas are very exciting, like for the accounting and whatnot. They're already having the vacation work by their mentors. Their mentors are the ones that are giving them opportunities to come in for 3 days, and for 3 days during back, or for weeks or whatnot, or weekends. And within the HR space, it's very much I've left the young professionals to just work around their way and just work up. So I think to just lessen the gap between the already accomplished or senior mentors within the corporates and within academias, that they, especially with these conversations, this is an example of how it can be made, just so that we are also in touch with what's happening. Yes. So what could be done differently? Work readiness. There could be a module in final year that does the work readiness, which would help with understanding employee roles, effective communications, safety procedures, applying responsibility and positive attitude in the workplace. Just to, unless the universities would say their main objective is just to educate, then it is the students' responsibilities to further equip themselves if they want to be entrepreneurs or if they want to be in corporate. But if universities are saying we're moving with the world of work and we're moving with where things are happening, it's important that they filter through in every aspect of the life of a student and their inspirations, just so that the university life is beneficial. So the work readiness would definitely be an advantage. Then from the university alignment, this one is very important because I'm assuming, because universities are mostly led by scholars, that there are few people that maybe are entrepreneurs in HR, because there are people who are leading successful HR businesses and consulting, or and also people that are successful HR people in big organizations. I believe that the scholars leading universities and these people leading successful businesses and these HR professionals should not work separately. They should be one, because universities are the biggest talent pool currently, because most graduates are from universities. So we might as well work together to move forward a country at large, or the HR space, working together to just also help the scholars be aware of what's happening. And yeah, then I also touched on the compulsory vacation and the university career phase that I have also touched. So also just concluding, my general experience with HR is that it has been a great learning curve. I've been with talent acquisition for a year and 4 months, and just recently been given an opportunity to move into the human capital consultants, which I'll be soon holding a position of being an organizational transformation analyst, which I'll be consulting for external clients, just assisting with the business needs that speaks to HR. For example, change management, or operations, op model, and talent and culture. So it is for the students that are here. It is a great career to pursue, and with the correct mentor, as I mentioned, and the correct opportunity, it can be a very it can be a very beautiful experience because HR is not only now just like in the workplace whereby you hiring, firing, but then there's also as my new role I've explained, but HR now is a money-making area whereby we're going and consulting to other companies and everything. So I believe if we change our attitude as young professionals and also be more involved, we can definitely contribute more in our field. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zama. That was a very good presentation. And I think many of us, as you went through your presentation, were nodding in agreement, because I think for us, for me, I've always felt that the universities can do so much more to prepare everyone for the workplace. So thank you so much for that. Prof, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you so much. I'm just putting my slides up. Thank you, Zama. That was a wonderful presentation. And I think too often we don't hear from the student perspective or the graduate perspective. So I thought it was quite important. This is quite an important webinar. And I also am so happy to see Dr. Ashika Maraj here, who is the head of our Human Resource Management and Industrial Relations discipline. And I'm sure her contributions will be quite valuable in the discussion as well, because she's quite a strong advocate for many of the issues that Zama has raised. So thank you, Ashika, for being here as well. I want to speak from an academic or a scholar's point of view that's employed at the university as a professor and an academic, and also to give stakeholders here at this meeting, whether you are an HR professional, a student, or an academic staff member, a perspective from within the academy. Because I think very few people know exactly what goes on within the academy or within the university. Students have a limited perspective. Industry stakeholders also have a limited perspective. So the aim here is just to give you a broad overview. And interestingly enough, there are overlaps between Zama's presentation and mine, but perhaps from two different perspectives. So I think it will generate hopefully a lively discussion. So I can only really speak for UKZN, though there would be certain generalizations across the universities in South Africa. So at UKZN, most of our students are Black African students. Most come from lower quintile schools, which are less resourced. And this impacts on skill sets. And what do I mean by this? So we often assume a first-year student, for example, would know how to use a computer or the internet. But this is not always the case. And so the assumptions that academics work from and maybe corporate works from are often very different from the realities on the ground. Our students are far less affluent generally than students at, say, UCT or Stellenbosch, for example. Most of our HR students are women, are female. I noticed that in IR, we usually have more men registered, but I see over the last 3 years, this is going towards almost a 50-50 split. So there's definitely a feminization of the discipline in terms of who chooses or self-selects into an HR or IR career. We have a mix of full-time and working students, and this creates its own sets of issues which we can speak about later. So the minority of students at UKZN are self-funded or funded by parents or guardians. 80% of our students are state-funded from NSFAS, and this also raises a number of issues around resources and resource allocation and so on. So the debate about whether students are underprepared or whether universities are underprepared continues. And I don't think that debate has been resolved. but I think it's especially acute at UKZN, where one cohort will say that we receive underprepared students, and another cohort would say, well, it is us that, as a university that is underprepared to provide the resources for students to succeed, graduate, and craft a career in their chosen fields. So again, I can only speak from my own experience. I think something that is also quite unique in the South African experience of graduates is that there are high rates of unemployment in students' families. And why does this matter? I think it matters because there's almost a generation that will not understand what it means for someone to work full-time permanently in a secure professional job, right? And that has to have implications for workplace readiness. It also means there's no social networking to labor markets and job opportunities, because often we get our first jobs through word of mouth, through connections, through knowing someone who's worked in an organization, in our family or our friends. But with unemployment rates so high, this is no longer the case. So there's no generational experience of workplaces, or employment culture. And I think this sort of speaks to Zama's point as well around work readiness programs that universities can offer, because that might actually be the first experience that some of our students ever have of the formal workplace, right? This, of course, is also related to issues of class, race, privilege, and so on. So depending on where you rank in society, your access to labor markets through connections, networks, family, friends, resources to do simple things like a CV, or to even dress appropriately for an interview, very much depends on your access to resources to be able to do that. The last 2.5 years have been dominated by the pandemic. And I think this has impacted, despite our best efforts, in some important ways, negatively on the curriculum. I think the relational aspect has been lost. So I would say some of the most important work that takes place, and Zama mentioned mentoring and coaching, is the relationship between academics and students that lie outside the formal lecture. So it's those conversations that happen just before the lecture starts or after the lecture starts, or the sharing of experience and networks during the lecture, that simply can't be relayed in the same way over a Zoom lecture or email and so on. So in one way, virtual learning has democratized access. So, more people have access, but it has also amplified inequalities. So students that were originally quite disadvantaged in terms of resources are now even more disadvantaged. The last 2.5 years have impacted very negatively on the psychosocial well-being of students. I remember last year, for example, I would just phone in to my honor students, because it was a fairly small class, to check how they were doing. And there were quite a few times that students would cry on the phone, not because of an assignment or a bad mark or grade, but simply because they were just not coping with the incredible stress of the pandemic. And so a lot of that emotional labor that is done in contact has been lost because of the pandemic. And also peer-to-peer learning has been lost. So in a class with a mix of students that are working full-time and full-time students, a lot of networking takes place, a lot of connecting, opportunities for work and so on, and that has also been lost. So I wanted to briefly discuss this, because I think in our discussion about the curriculum, we mustn't forget that we are still in an anomalous period of time. So like Zama, I want to critically reflect on the curriculum. And again, these points might generally apply to other universities, but I speak from a UKZN experience. So we have a very traditional theoretical curriculum. And I don't think that's just unique to the social sciences or humanities. We are social science after all, even if you go through the BCom route. We do have a research focus, and our hope is that this research focus transfers to skill sets required for employment. But I don't always think this happens. And we could really, I think, have a discussion about this. We do not have an in-service training or work experience program, but it is something that, as a discipline led by Dr. Miraj, it is something that we are actively advocating for. And I will explain in a little while why processes take so long at the university. I think Zama mentioned in her presentation that sometimes it can take 10 years, right? And I would say sometimes it can take more. And unless we address that issue, none of these other issues are going to be resolved. There's little to no input from industry boards, though technically they should be. And again, this is something that we are actively trying to change. Input from other HR stakeholders as well, like the BMF or professional bodies. So there definitely is, in my opinion, a disconnect between the labor market and the curriculum. We do our best as individual scholars to make sure that we are in touch with what's happening in industry, but that very much depends on the individual, right? And it's not always incentivized. So in theory, you could offer something in 2022 that you've been offering since 1984, for example, in terms of a module. And again, the shift in HR has moved from operational to strategic. And I think our curriculum does reflect this, or is increasingly reflecting this. So these are just some of the key themes that our curriculum examines at the moment. And I don't want to discuss each one, but I just thought it would be interesting for all of you to see what the general areas of focus are in an HR curriculum. So I really want to focus on this part. Why is change so slow at universities? So often students and outside stakeholders don't understand the work that academics do and how this has changed over the last, I would say, 20 years. We are strictly monitored and controlled through quantitative measures. We are expected to do 45% of teaching, which is measured in hours. So that translates to 810 hours. In reality, many of us do in excess of 1,000 hours, right? Research is 40%, and then the balance is community engagement and administration. Teaching refers purely to actual lecture time. So it's your assessment, your contact teaching. Inbuilt in this performance management system is no incentive or management of curriculum transformation. Yes, you can do it, but it will not count as part of, as a major percentage of your work as an academic. So I think that's the one reason, right? And any work done outside these very quantitative measures of work is in essence free labor. And this becomes a problem because this was not always the way academia worked. And you can't quantify ideas or outreach and so on. So often my friends and family think I do 4 lectures a week and then watch Netflix or go to the beach and so on. But because that is often the perception of academia. And it's quite funny when people from corporate say, oh, I'm going to, once I reach a certain level in corporate, I'm going to relax and enjoy my life when I join academia. But it is it is a very, very difficult job where very little of our work is actually focused on curriculum transformation. So working conditions, resources, budgets, pressures to perform outside teaching in terms of our work, violence on campus over the last decade have all impacted on the work environments of academics. And in essence, universities are run like businesses now with very little autonomy given to academics to initiate these changes. It takes years to actually change a module, for example, or to change an entire curriculum or degree structure. So what does this mean for the student experience? It's a very slow pace of curriculum transformation. We are always, as universities, going to be behind more agile education organizations. And Zama mentioned Deloitte has its own sort of university. And we are seeing this increasingly in industry, where industry is saying to us, we have to retrain graduates. We have to invest in our own training programs. There always is a disconnect between industry, labor markets, and degrees offered. At the moment, it's quite difficult to provide an experiential learning environment in a sustainable and significant way. There are issues of relevance if industry has to retrain and reskill, because what that says to us is that we're simply not agile enough. Of course, some colleagues may say that is not the purpose of the university. The purpose of the university is not to accommodate industry's needs. We need to train critical scholars, but that's another debate, right? And then, does it matter what degree someone studies then? Does it matter whether you do a BCom in HR or a BA in history if you can be retrained by your employer to do whatever work needs to be done? This also means that we are unable to offer proper mentoring, coaching, and supervision, which is an issue. However, degrees are still a gateway to employment, as statistics show, right, in South Africa, that they're a gateway to employment, to long-term economic and financial wealth, and they enhance all aspects of a graduate's life. But I think the one aspect that often gets lost in the conversation around curriculum is that graduates that succeed are often not the graduates that always get first-class passes or A's, but they are the graduates that have the appropriate behavioral skills, such as grit and resilience, for example. And Zama mentioned how, at university, you get a month to do a project, or there's extension upon extension, and there's a significant amount of accommodation, and this simply doesn't exist in the same place in the workplace. So we find that students that have high levels of resilience and grit are often the ones that succeed the most. So these are not excuses that I'm offering, but rather, I think, a context, and it is not a sustainable context. And it is, so I want to leave it there, because I think the people that are here today are the ones, as students, HR stakeholders, and academics, that are going to drive this process forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for giving us that perspective. And we've already got, so I want to go straight into the engagements, questions, comments. Zama, I see there's one up there for you from Nonkla. Can you see it, Zama, on your side? Do you need me to read it out to you?
I'm not sure why I'm not able to see it from my side.
Okay. Nonkla, do you want to unmute and maybe chat? No? Okay. So Zama, thank you for the presentation. It was indeed very relatable and informative. Do you think quality human resource management is a competitive advantage in the business environment? That's the first question. Do you think quality human resource management is a competitive advantage in the business environment?
Yes, most definitely. It's the quality. It's what should I say? Thank you. Do you think it's competitive advantage? Yes, because I believe that there is more concentration now on the people element in organizations. So the HR space is more or less in the center of attention. So having competitive knowledge in that, which is relevant, is an advantage.
Okay. Can you see it now, Zama?
Yes, I opened the thing now. I had blocked it. Okay. Do you think the COVID-19 pandemic is a core influence on digitalization? It was, I don't believe it's just COVID. COVID did fast track it, but it was meant to, as the world of work is fast evolving, even before COVID, the world of work was evolving. So we were gonna reach this place. It's just that COVID quickened the process. And how else has the pandemic changed the HR space? It has changed it with the talent. For example, I work from home. We have a hybrid system. So having a hybrid system means I'm only in the office for 2 days and I work from home for the remaining 3 days. So having that said, it's a different scenario from an HR perspective, trying to manage talent or retain talent, because people are working from home, and also we want to create this culture thing going on in the organizations, but then again, people are not in the organizations anymore. So it requires a different strategy of still remaining the momentum and everything, whilst everyone is apart. People are working from everywhere in the world, but in one team. So yes. And how do you think the government and public sector can contribute to the required change to assist universities with the changes that need to be done? I think just being one, working together. To practice as an HR, do you have to be registered personnel? No, you do not. HR personnel study different, the industrial psychologists that are HR personnel, the industrial relations, HR, so it's abroad. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully I've answered Nipo. Thank you so much for the questions.
Thanks, Zama. Prof, the next one is for you.
Thank you, Farah. I'm going to be a little bit mischievous and ask if Ashika Miraj, who's the head of our discipline, also wants to come in on that issue. The question is, I understand it takes years to restructure a curriculum. How can we possibly fast-pace this process? And yeah, I think we have to change the bureaucracy at universities, maybe. Yeah, Ashika, I'm not sure if you want to say anything on this.
Yes, thank you, Sean, and thank you, Farah, for the opportunity to actually be here. Very informative, and I mean, wow, it's really a privilege to be part of the process. Yeah, I mean, just looking at those comments there, like Sean said, I'm quite passionate about curriculum development and industry partnerships and things like that. And I see that my dear friend Sisi Kulisi is here as well. And we as a department have started with this engagement with industry last year, where we actually held a career expo with quite a few of our alumni who have now, taken on roles in industry. Just to speak a little bit about the curriculum development, since I've taken over in 2019, we've actually revised the PG Dip in HRM program. which was kind of the same for the last 14 years. And also we've now revamped our honors program, which will actually take into effect 2023, where we are now going to be offering a combined program. But just to give you a little bit of background on how long that process actually took. It took about 18 months for a new program, actually not a new program, a combined program, our IR and HRM honors, to actually go through the processes at the university to actually be offered in 2023. I see someone's asking here about the fast pace. Unfortunately, we are a bureaucracy. We are bound by layers and layers and layers of red tape. And also we need to remember that, it's not just, we have to offer accredited programs. So it's got to go through the relevant authorities, for example, SACWA, as well as the ETDP. So those processes take time. For example, for us to now develop a new program, which is one of the things that we are looking at, an HRD honors, for us to actually get a new program up and running, it's going to take about 2.5 to 3 years. And, we'd love to have the opportunity to say, right, like Zama said, the digitalization of the curricula, of the work processes. I'd love to be able to go to Workspace or whatever or SAPs and say, right, guys, my honors students, I've got 45 honors students. Can you please run us a short training course? I'd love that. The work experience. I tried to get on the work experience, for example, incorporated into our curriculum. I was basically told as a research university, I cannot offer it. Because it does not fit with the ETDP definition of what a research university can offer. So, the obstructions or the restrictions in terms of what we can and can't do is highly regulated. Going on to, like I said, UKZN is a research university. We are not a technical university. So for me, I am restricted. My hands are literally tied in terms of workplace integration into my curriculum, which is, again, as Professor Raganan will attest to, we've been battling, we've been meeting with the various stakeholders, etc. And I think last year we were basically told, no, I can't even offer an assessor course as part of my honors program. That was what I wanted to do. But no, it's a short course, it's a vocational training. You cannot offer it as part of your curriculum. So, as much as we'd love to offer what industry wants, as a research university, we are severely constrained by what we can and cannot do. I think in fact, I'm meeting with the SABPP KZN next week to see how I can actually incorporate some kind of work experience or vocational training, or even some sort of voluntary back work. It doesn't necessarily have to be part of my main curriculum, but it's something that I can offer students as an add-on. Those are the sort of things that I have a vision for in terms of our curriculum and what we can offer our students. But again, like I'm saying, if we can have, I was just speaking to Sean this week, where we'd love to have a curriculum development in Daba, because curriculum is such an important part of where we're going. How do we train our young people? And both Sean and myself are very passionate about where our young people end up. We want them to succeed, and we want to equip them with the kind of skills that we know they're going to need. Be it, they end up where Zama is, or be it that, they come and join us in academia. But the kind of experience that we want to give them, right now, we are being severely and critically limited. So yeah, I think that's just a few things that I wanted to say for now, but I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it as well. Thanks, Farah.
Thank you, Ashika. Thank you, Sean, as well. It's so interesting for me, Ashika. I didn't realize, and I wouldn't have realized until you mentioned it, that being a research university restricts you. And I'm sure not only you guys, there are others in the university also that can't do what they really would like to do because they're restricted. So that's yeah, okay. So that was that's interesting for me. Does anybody else want to add to that, or do you have a question? Okay, so Nontla says thank you, well noted, and thank you to everyone for that. So I just want to, before we go on, I just want to just put it out there, Ashika, that this platform is open for you. And I mean, Sean and I we've spoken at length of things that we'd like to do using this platform, because as BMF, that's what we're actually here for, to develop whichever way we can fit in to assist in the development, especially of our youth and our students. I mean, our student chapter is also, we're also trying to assist them to get a little bit more active on the campuses. But please note that this is, if there's anything that you feel we can help you put out there, or even use the platform to run workshops for you, please, we are here to assist. So in having said that, Zama spoke a lot about mentorship. So as a province, what we do have is we have what we call an SMME mentorship circle, and we have a host of mentors who are available to mentor small businesses. But we also have a coaching corner, and we also have coaches there, a host of coaches who are available to also coach in the professional space. So to everybody who's online today, please note that is open to you. You will get a coach or a mentor, whichever space you're in, to help you along your journey. And there's no cost to it. So all you'll need to do is just email Bongiwe, the coordinator, the administrator, your details, and we will connect you with a coach. So please note that is available for you. And what we've also planned, and I did also speak to Sean briefly on this, is we also found with our students, preparing everyone for the interviews, for that very first interview. Not a lot of students have access to that kind of that information, or to somebody who can workshop things like that. You know, what does your profile need to look like? Because you're not always gonna have to produce a CV. Sometimes it would just be a personal profile that somebody would ask for initially. So what does that need to look like? And we've been lucky that we've got Nedbank's HR managers that have agreed to run workshops. So they're going to be proper workshops. So please look out for that. And obviously I'll put that through Sean. So we have identified some of the gaps, and wherever we can, and this is open to anybody, if you feel that there's something, a topic that we should be discussing, please just email Bongiwe and she'll put her information, and we'll do our best to get industry and captains of industries, wherever we need to pull them from, to come and actually talk to us. So I just wanted to put that out there for everyone before we moved on.
Farah, can I also say that given the limitations of being a research university and what we can do, the bureaucracy, the processes and so on, I think an immediate solution is because what you're suggesting is really creating a community of people to support and encourage graduates and help them craft their career. And I think that is something that can be done. That's not officially part of any university curriculum, but almost happens parallel to it. And it does rely on the goodwill of individuals, but I think, you know, there are plenty of us out there.
Yes, yes. You know, when we actually put it out that we were looking for mentors and coaches, we were actually amazed that, you know, there wasn't even a second, there was just responses was, yes, we'd love to get involved. You know, we'd love to help groom young people and also not so young people, because COVID really turned our lives upside down, and almost every aspect of our lives. So I think mentorship, just in general, I think also as a country, we're so slow. We're so slow in understanding the role of a mentor. And I think we need to really take mentorships really seriously. And I mean, I say this from as early on as early childhood development. You know, mentorship should start from there, and work its way up into the corporate space. Okay, Nontla, I see you've. Okay, so Nontla's got also the issue of sustainability is vital in the world at large, and lies in daily human activities. Since HR focuses on the human resource, how are we ensuring that employees are contributing to sustainability at workplaces to help in mitigating problems as big as climate change, waste of resources, etc.? Ashika, Sean, would you like to take a stab at that?
So I think a big issue that we are, that is relatively new to HR is around green human resources and the issue of climate and sustainability and things like the circular economy and so on. So how do employees do this at workplaces? I think it will differ from workplace to workplace. So it could be something as simple as digitizing everything, so you don't use excessive amounts of paper and so on. We also see with COVID the significant impact on the environment by just having fewer cars on the road. So that could be another example of something that could be a permanent practice or a future practice that stays. And I think there is a realization globally that as much as we want economic growth, so everyone talks about economic growth all the time, but economic growth comes at a cost, and it usually comes at a cost to the planet, and that we have to be creative in the way we think about growing the economy without destroying the environment. So I think it would very much depend on the specific industry, because if you go to mining, that would be very different from, say, the aviation industry, for example.
Thanks.
In terms of from a curriculum point of view, it is something that we have incorporated, I think, in most of our modules around the environment, labor, HR. We've produced a few PhDs and masters on this topic, which is something. So in as much as we are quite slow sometimes, I think if you look at this area in HR, even 10 years ago, there would have been no scholarly production on it in South Africa, but now it's almost mainstream.
Thanks, Sean. Ashika's asking in the chat if anyone has contacts with regards to the software used in HR to please message her. Ashika, we do have a member who has a software business, and I'll send his number through. He's quite involved with the corporates, so I'll maybe can
No,
help you out.
I think, I'm liking this. Well, I think with our department, and I think, Sean and I have had many discussions over this issue. I think, more than a formal sort of curriculum change, which does take forever. I think the more informal side of things, where we can bring in people to come in and, do a course with the students. Obviously, we can't pay, we got no money. But, your community engagement, your community service, your youth development, your youth empowerment, come in, do a short course with our honest students who, on the software like Workspace or SAPS. Come in and offer your services as a student mentor or a coaching. I'll give you one example. On my PM, I've been asking to do a mentorship and coaching course. Not necessarily for my students. We do it we do it on an ad hoc basis. It's something that we do and we don't even have on our CVs. But I mean, I've been asking for, part of my PM has been, please send me for a formal coaching and mentorship course, so that I have the skills, because I'm doing it, but that's because I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter-in-law, I'm a community member, etc., etc. But, I think in terms of our engagement, and like I said, we even limited, I'll give you an example, we even limited in terms of our panel of experts. I know other disciplines have actually asked the dean to, set up their own discipline-specific industry panel or panel of experts, as it were. And he has been completely against the idea. He's all about the school. We need to have a combined school panel of experts, etc. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's fine. But if I've got the contacts and if I've got people in my field who are willing, and I've got 15 people willing to come on and do X, Y, and Z for our students, I can't really go and source someone from OP or someone from, supply chain or someone from IT or from local government. I don't have those contacts. So, that discussion around, our own personal little basket of resources, that's something that, we've started last year. We've created a little HR community online on LinkedIn. Please join. You'll find it. What, Sean? It's UKZN HR community.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll send the link in the chat now.
Yeah. And, I mean, we want that. We want people to come in, be guest lecturers, come in, offer your services. Okay, I can do this, I can run this workshop for the students, etc., etc. But those are conversations that I, as the head of the discipline, are more than willing to engage with. And definitely industry partners, people coming in. If you've got a graduate program, that your organization runs, for example, we post that on our HR community board. Ask students to be part of BMF. I mean, or even SABPP. But again, there needs to be that value add that students see. So yeah, no, definitely, those are things that we would be definitely open to. And I think, Farah, we can have those discussions going forward as well. And there would be other staff members and students. I know we've got quite a lively bunch of honors students. I see some of them are here today. Quite a lively bunch of students. I've got one guy who now wants to engage with the labor law because he doesn't feel that certain sections are fair. So yeah, quite interesting and quite engaging, So I mean, we need to encourage our young people, and like Zama was saying, our field is so broad, it's so diverse. Which is what attracted me to it in the first place. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to engage, and thanks, Sean, for this opportunity, and also Farah, you as well.
Thank you, Ashika. Yes, and I think we need to keep the conversations going. You know, sometimes we have these and we talk, and then 3 months later, you know, and I think we just need to continue talking. Is there any other questions? Because I have one. So Zama, I'm going to ask you to go with this one for me first, please. And you knew at I'm going to say Deloitte, but I mean in the workplace. So
Yes.
What have you noticed? Because diversity is a very important thing for me in the workplace. And sometimes I think, you know, we want the jobs, we get in there and we forget to look around. So just from your short experience in the workplace, because you know, sometimes we have bosses, and okay, I haven't had a boss for many years. I'm a business coach and mentor, where they say, you know, leave your troubles at the door and come into work. And I've always thought that that's not the way to go, because, you know, and like the last session we had with Sean, and we had some results, you know, the great resignation or the great rethink, because for me that's what diversity is. Because we all, when we come in with where we come from, how we've been brought up, you know, our struggles, that's all of us. And if you only want half of us to come in through the door, you're only going to get half the employee. So what have you found in diversity, if anything, thus far in your working life?
Yes, I just want to ensure that I got it correctly. Are you asking about the wellness of it, or the diversity, or the combination of those questions?
Well, we'll take the combination.
Okay, so with diversity, as I am in talent, so it diversity is direct. We are directly responsible for it. The Department of Labor is very strict on it, and we are compelled to. We are nearing our financial end. So our financial end ends in, what is it, end of May. So that's when we do the final compiling of our EE stats and everything. So we are, we are prioritizing it a lot, but there's also the issue of scarce skills. Professor took us very nicely about the skills and the disadvantage and all. So it is a case whereby some of the scarce skills are only found within a certain race, which we do deviations for. But for diversity, we are definitely pressurized by the labor, because there are millions of sanctions apparently that the company can pay for if we are not complying with it. From a wellness perspective, my company is very nice because we have like a wellness center where there are industrial psychologists, and recently we partnered with what's the spa? There's this other spa boutique that we're partnering with. They have specific days where they come to the office, where they'll be providing discounted massages and facial stuff, doing nails and everything. So they're doing well. They're trying to do well with the wellness aspect of it. I'm hoping I'm answering you, Farah.
No, that's fine. And I think as everybody moves on with their careers, and I think in particular in HR, you'd probably have to address that yourself.
Yes.
Organization that you work for. Thank you, Zama. Are there any more comments? Anybody want to make a comment, or is there any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, sorry, before I mute again, sorry. Yeah, I did write it on the chats, but I just want to say it again. Thank you so much for the insights with Ashika and Professor. It's very informative because it's frustrating a bit from the outside because we're thinking you guys have all changed, but then we are aware of the that you are aware that there's a need for change and everything. So that is very great to hear. And we look forward to all the changes for the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Zama. You get a thumbs up from your prof there.
If I knew how to do it, I'll just click on one and give it, the applaud.
Please, Lucky, you're showing your age now if you don't know how to do that.
I'm trying to surf through here. See, where is it? But I just want to say two things, man. I don't think it's a question. It's more of an observation and a comment. To Zama, I really appreciate and I want to acknowledge the level of preparedness and readiness. I can see, honestly, she really put effort in what she presented today. That's a plus for me. And she made a very important point on the slide titled the need to restructure the HR curriculum. She says the HR curriculum needs to be relooked at as a transformational driver of the new world of work. I can't agree more because you see, academic space will yield graduates who go to the workspace. And like myself, I'm an engineer, we have lawyers, we have accountants, you have all types of people going to the workspace. And the one thing that they all subject to, which is common, is when you get higher and higher or up the corporate ladder, you get promoted, you see the dynamics then become different. What your discipline prepared you for as an accountant, an engineer, doesn't prepare you adequately for some of the dynamics that are leadership by nature, which is now begin to be confronted with. So from that point of re-looking at the curriculum, I really then concur with her sentiments there. And again, of late, what I've even learned of late is some of the challenges that were brought up by COVID. Yes, leadership, there's been acknowledgement that, okay, we need to prepare you or expose you to some leadership programs as an engineer. Then comes COVID, then you realize over and above your that exposure, there's now a need for you to be like a counselor, because by virtue of being a leader in the department, by virtue of what COVID brought to the fore as a new challenge. So these dynamics that are constantly evolving and coming up, I think they amplify that need to transform even further. Hence, I really echo the sentiments of how I wish this implementation of revised curriculum could be shortened, because the dynamics out there are going at a fast pace than we can adapt. So yeah, I concur with her, and thumbs up to Prof and Dr. Ashika as well.
Thank you, Lucky. Ashika, do you want to say something there, or you acknowledging the point?
Yes, no, definitely acknowledging the point. I'm glad to hear we have an engineer amongst our midst, because I know when I was doing my MBA as well, we had all the engineers sitting in our class, because you guys need to learn how to deal with people. And I think any aspect or any field, like you rightly pointing out, is that as the higher up you go, it's not about your technical skills anymore.
No.
I mean, that you should have packed, that's something that you do it with in your sleep. But I think with COVID, and also, as you rightly pointing out, as you go higher up in any organization, whether it be academic or even corporate, it's your people skills that you need to know and learn and brush up on. Because I mean, with COVID, we're discovering, people have lost loved ones like on a weekly basis. How do you deal with that? I need to be, like you're rightly saying, you need to be a counselor. Someone's lost their husband or their wife or their child, and then I expect you to meet a deadline. I think COVID has actually forced us to get in touch with our humanity. And I think, and no disrespect, Doc, but kind of some of the fields are not that humane. And I think COVID has actually forced us to focus on
Exposed
the
it.
humanity.
Yeah.
It's not about the project getting finished. It's not about, like, I mean, in my field, for example, I've got university age kids. My mom passed away last year. It was her 1 year last week. But that week that she passed, we had her funeral on the Monday, and both my girls are writing their formative assessments on the Tuesday. Now, what do I tell you as her academic or her line manager? A line manager is fine, I can take leave. But as a student, what do I tell the lecturer concerned? My granny passed. Okay, yeah, hey, I'm so sorry, right? You're writing today. We need that humanity is something that we need to really hone in on and understand. And I don't know whether that space even exists. I know in academia sometimes, from the student perspective, and I'm sure Zama can attest to it as well. But in the academic space, I don't think we actually have that. Very few people do, which is why I think, and not to be tooting anyone's horn, but I think that's why Prof. Sean gets as many, inquiries and requests for assistance and, that sort of thing. Because, you got to have your humanity about you. And like you said, those are soft skills. And maybe sometimes it's not even something that we learn. It's just, you need to be a human being first and foremost. So, I can teach you how to do these things, the so-called soft skills. But, sometimes at the end of the day, it's just about having that shoulder or having that, that pat on the back that people are actually looking for. So yeah, no, thanks, Doc, for your comments.
Thanks, Ashika. And, I think COVID taught us a lot of things. But what it also showed is that, for years, you look at people and you think, oh, they've got it all together. And COVID came along and those same people just could not cope under the pressure coming from all sides. And again, it makes you realize that we are all human at the end of the day. That we are all human, and there are going to be things that I can cope with, things that Doc can cope with, but somebody else just cannot cope. And it just meant supporting each other through that. And being judgmental went out the window. You couldn't judge anybody for them not coping under the pressure of COVID and, death in the family and spouses losing their jobs in the process and the financial issues coming and still trying. And that's why I read something, and I think Prof. Sean, you sent it to me, where somebody said, we are so tired of being resilient now. Can we just all just cry and get it out of our systems, because we've been forced to be resilient for so long. And especially this province, we just as we thought we were coming out of COVID, we had the riots in July. Just as we thought we were getting somewhere, about a month or so back, we had the terrible flooding. A month later, we get flooding almost like that, and people have been left homeless, with just the clothes on their backs again, so, and I keep asking, when is this province just going to get a break? When are we just going to get a break and be able to live again? Because we've had so many disruptions, and we still say we'll bounce back. And I say, is bouncing back enough? Because I think we need to bounce forward also, So I'm so grateful, Zama and Sean, for joining us, and Ashika, thank you so much. And I saw your Sintlobile, your colleague had to leave us, but thank you so much for joining us and for the session. Sean, I'm looking for more of these to happen. I think they're relevant, and I think we've found a space where we can come together and maybe even just vent, because sometimes that's what you just need to do. You just need to vent. You just need a place to vent. And I recall when we first started our sessions, you know, we had leadership sessions as well, beginning of COVID right up until last year, with Professor Cecile Hervel from the Graduate School of Business and Leadership at UKZN. And one of the ladies on that session actually opened up. And we were amazed when this young lady said that it's the first time she told anyone that COVID had brought her close to committing suicide. So I think these sessions are the platform mostly, I think, is so important to vent, just to let out whatever, because we sit in our little corners and we think we're the only ones going through what we're going through, and we certainly not. We are certainly not. And we think that there's no help out there and there's no place for us to talk our things through, and they are. And there most certainly are places. Yes, Imakobe, we will definitely host more of these sessions. Sibile, thank you so much for such an informative session, as you already have increased our knowledge as honors IR and HRM students. Thank you to Zama for sharing your experience. You've given us so much insightful knowledge of what to expect in the workplace, and the knowledge to know that there's a lot of opportunities. Thank you, Sibile. Yes, we are going. Emakobe, we are definitely going to have more of these sessions. I think Bongiwe has put her information, but if you ever need to get hold of BMF, please, if you don't have any of our contact information, Sean's got mine, and you definitely, the door's always open. The lines of communication will always be open. So even if there's a topic you feel we need to just unpack, and you maybe need us to call in captain of industry or somebody, we can reach out to them on your behalf. So please, this platform is now your platform, Prof and Ashika, and to everybody. So is there any more comments or any further questions before we go to closing? Okay, Zama, do you want to give us final closing remarks?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much, because we need to engage about this education system, because it is important. So I'm happy that it is being re-looked at all in the processes, because I believe universities will still be from a talent acquisition perspective, be our main source of talent, as Professor just did explain that universities are still required. So thank you so much for the session, very informative, and I look forward to having many more. And thank you so much to Dr. Ashik too, very informative. Thank you so much to you too for organizing the session. Very excited, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Zama. Thank you. Prof, sorry, Zama, you wanted to say something?
And everyone that joined, made the time to join, thank you very much.
Prof, your closing remarks?
I just want to say thank you again. I think everything has been nicely covered, and yeah, I look forward to the next session.
Thank you so much, Prof, as well, for your contributions and your support. Ashika, do you want to say anything in closing?
Yes, Farah, I again think, excuse me, like to echo the sentiments of Sean and Zama. Thank you for the opportunity. You know, the problem with us academics is once you give us a mic, you can't get us to shut up. But no, thank you again. At least it gave us an opportunity to actually give our perspective as academics in the field. You know, and also for the opportunity that we got to engage with others of, you know, from industry and our students. So thank you very much, and I look forward to more sessions.
Thank you, Ashika. Yes, I just want to say thank you so much, you know, for everybody who's attended. We actually had a very good attendance today, and I'm so grateful for everybody who gave up their time. And I always say that this, you know, these are the times that you give up where you invest in yourself and your growth and your development. So thank you to everybody. Zama, thank you so much. And for me, for being honest and in your statements, your journey. And Prof also for giving us, you know, the inside scoop, as to say, on what you guys actually experience as lecturers at the university. Ashika, thank you once again, and I'm really looking forward to further engagements. So if there isn't anything further, I'd like to say again, thank you so much for your attendance, and we look forward to hosting you again very soon.